Yeah, I find myself thinking, what if Putin had been well loved when he was a child? I mean, I don't know, would it make a difference? What if Mr. Netanyahu did? No, I better not.
So if there were more hugs.
No, honestly, I mean, it's easy.
And darling, you did great today at school.
No, not even so much that as, I think that's a very Western idea of love. You know, people say, my mom didn't hug me. There are many people all over the world who were not necessarily hugged every day, but grew up knowing that they were loved. I remember when actually it was when, I think it was when Russia, I think it was Crimea, I then sort of wanted to understand. So I went and read a biography of Putin. And honestly, I remember thinking that if certain things had happened differently in his life, would we be where we are? So I guess this is maybe a way of saying something larger, which is that I really think leadership matters. And I don't mean, yes, the policies the leaders take, but also the personality and how they look at the world. And yes, how they were loved. It makes a difference. Hugs or not.
People gravitate towards your stories, the way you see the world, your essays, your short stories, very often talks that you do, not even the books, the talks that you do. They resonate, people share them. Beyonce samples them. Your work seems to transcend many parts of the world and all over the world. So that really is the way you tell a story, the way you put a narrative together. That has value and power. So in a venue like where we are at the moment, at the World Bank headquarters, people also watching online around the world, that power of telling a story, using narrative, what can it change in the world?
I hope it can change a lot. I'm just thinking about the way I tell a story. I think maybe I'm very interested in truth, but for me, truth is not, and I like to make a distinction between fact and truth. And so when I was writing Half of a Yellow Sun, for example, I would often say to people, I know the facts because I've read everything published about this war, but now I want the truths. I want the sort of textured things. And so I think telling stories about, you know, and often, yeah, I mean, I'm also very resistant to romanticizing things. I think maybe that two things. I think the first would be the Palestinian people. I just find it now almost unbearable to watch the news or even to read about what's happening there, because it just seems to me deeply immoral that people who are barricaded in a very tiny area are just being bombarded. You know, human beings, civilians, children. I find it deeply, deeply affecting. It's just actually, and you know, I was reading yesterday about the writers who have died. And of course, everybody matters, but I remember thinking, so now even the people who will tell the story are gone. You know, the Palestinian writers who've died. And so that is very much on my mind, especially thinking about children. I find that the older I get, the more unbearable for me it is to think about a child being hurt. And the other thing I would say is, in Nigeria right now, there's just so much hunger. And obviously that's different from being bombarded, but there's something about not being able to eat that I also find deeply immoral. By which I mean that you have a government that has taken decisions that ultimately translates to people being so hungry that their dignity is gone. And that just utterly breaks my heart, and it's going on now in Nigeria. Actually, yesterday and today, people have been protesting. Yeah, and there's just something, you know, sometimes you just think, what the hell is going on with the world, right? There's just, and...
Hello, my sister.
Hello, darling.
You work with words all of the time, and as you are in the Changemaker Signature Series in the Fragility Forum 2024, I looked up the definition of changemaker to make sure that you qualify. Because you know how much Nigerians love qualifications. Changemaker, intentional about solving a social problem. Empathy for others.
I hope so.
Okay. Driven by a genuine goal to make the world a better place.
Yes.
Okay, good. Motivated to act. That's a long pause.
So I'm already thinking about how we need to qualify that.
With an
Depends on
example.
what do we mean by act? Yes, I would say yes.
Keep trying to make a difference.
Yes.
All right, you've got most of those correct. You can stay.
Thank you.
So, Chimamanda, you, in your work, you write about conflict in different circumstances. Often it's human relationships conflict. In one particular novel, Half of a Yellow Sun, it's actual war, conflict in Nigeria. How do you deal with conflict in your work as a writer?
I think, well, thank you for being here. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really thrilled to be with this wonderful woman in particular. Conflict in I don't think I set out, I think one of the things about storytelling and writing is that I don't know that one sets out and says, I shall write about conflict today, right? I mean, the stories call you, stories speak to you in a way. And so for Half of a Yellow Sun, for example, when I was growing up, I was so aware that my family had experienced something and that the shadow of it still existed. And I felt haunted by it, and it's something that I can't intellectualize it. I can't say to you, here's why I wrote about Biafra. It's sort of this almost intuitive thing. And when I decided that I was ready to write it, I wanted to write about human beings. I mean, yes, the Nigerian Biafra War had happened, tens of thousands of people had died, but also I was interested in food. What did you eat the morning that you had to run from your home? What did you take with you?
So we have this woman. Her name is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This Chimamanda lady is really, really courageous. She's so vibrant, She's a woman who stood up and said, Putin is doing a wrong thing to the Ukrainians. Netanyahu is doing a wrong thing to the Palestinians. And you know what she added? She added that if somehow Putin was raised in a different way, or Netanyahu was raised in a different way, we would have a ton of events. Yeah, she looked at it that way. I'm always telling you let's try and see the glass as half full, not half empty. Without further ado, I want us to continue watching this video, and then we will give you our thoughts towards the end of the video.
Because I think in some ways, conflict shows us what matters most to us. And so I remember my uncle telling me that when they had to run from my hometown because the Nigerian soldiers were advancing, the thing he did was to collect all of the photographs they had. And I was very moved by that because it just said to me that when we're faced with this thing, what we're thinking about is that we want to keep our memories, And that's the reason we have one photo of my grandfather, because everything in their house was destroyed, but my uncle had taken the pictures. And so I now have that picture of my grandfather in my house, So I think I want to understand what it is internally in human beings that changes in conflict, that leads to conflict. So obviously I think talking about this in big terms is important, but I also think that it's important to think of it in the smallest of ways.
If we're looking at the Fragility Forum, we are looking at conflicts that are all over the world. As an artist who is very engaged with the world, what particular situation that's fragile, involving conflict or violence, is in your mind right now, top of mind, that you you want to share with us and your perspective of what is happening.
Even though there is a very strong streak in me that wants to romanticize, because, I love love. I'm actually just hope there's a part of me that's just hopelessly, why can't we all love each other? But then there's the other part of me that I sort of like to call the real politics side of me. And I want in my storytelling to merge both. And so, in other words, if one writes about somebody who's done something really remarkable and good, it doesn't necessarily mean that that person is perfect, because we're all flawed. And I'm interested in that. And I think maybe that's what people, I hope maybe that's what people kind of respond to. I don't like purity. I don't trust it. And I also don't trust perfection.
So I have seen storytellers who have gone around the world. They've spoken in displaced people's camps. They've encouraged young people to tell stories, to draw pictures. It's genuinely used as a tool.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, of course it is. I mean, therapists will tell you all the time that even your ability to tell yourself your own story is important, how you tell yourself your own story. Which is why I think there are many people all over the world who are told to look in a mirror and say, I am great. I mean, that doesn't work for me, but I appreciate that it works for some people. but no, I think it's also that we need to, even just the idea of going around asking people to tell stories and draw pictures, I think it's also a way of giving people dignity. And I think that's so important. Saying to people, what you've experienced matters. And what you've experienced isn't necessarily the same thing that somebody else has experienced. I mean, I'm really interested in, this is the other thing, just thinking about storytelling, in multiple perspectives. I've found that people who read fiction, and I wish more people would, and I'm not just saying this because I write fiction, but I mean, there is that. I think if you read fiction, you start to know that your perspective is not the only perspective. And it's so important, right? That Igbo people say that you don't stand in one place to look at a masquerade. So people, you sort of stand in different places to see it in a sort of holistic way. And it's so important to think about conflict in that way as well. People understand things differently. People remember things differently, And so for me, I'm always really interested in that. If I read something in the news, I'm thinking I want to read about it from the other point of view. It really just, it helps you understand. And as a storyteller, even if you don't use those facts in the story itself, it informs the writing, right? It just brings a particular quality to the way that you tell the story.
What story, short story, would you like to share with us right now?
Oh, Lord. I mean, no, I can't think.
I'm going to preface this by, if you've watched Chimamanda do talks, pick up another honorary degree, and then she does a little speech, she always talks about, I have this friend, and then goes into an extraordinary story. So, Chimamanda, you have this friend.
Yes, but we just fell out, so... That's the story, actually.
It's a short story.
Yeah,
so this one friend,
yeah,
who shall be nameless,
yes,
we also don't like her either now,
yeah, good.
Supplied many of your I have my friend stories.
Yes, she did supply
what a
quite
shame.
a few. But, hopefully one has other friends. See, I mean, does it have to be related to conflict?
It does not. I think people would love to say they came to the Fragility Forum, or they were watching it, and Chimamanda told them a story for them in this very moment.
Oh, Lord, Femi, that's too much. No, I mean, I know, right? I should have, yeah, I mean, I think...
Well, keep going,
yeah.
And then you'll think of a friend, and it will come to you. At the moment, you are working, and I'm not going to say too much, because that's up to you to talk about what you're working on. But when we talk about the world, and sometimes it's I'm a journalist, sometimes it's hard for me to watch the news, and that's my job. As a writer, and you're writing, and the world is, to use the phrase from this forum, is a volatile world. How does that volatility reflect in your work, your writing?
That's actually interesting, and maybe also reflect in even the process. So I'm working on a novel. I feel more confident now to say that because I'm very superstitious about my work, and I feel as though for a while I've been banished from my creative self, and there's a lovely see, I'm blanking, so I haven't slept. Who said this? Who said that when you're not writing, you feel as though you've been kind of divorced from yourself? And I felt that for a while, and so being able to get back into that space is just, it's just magical. But what's happening to me now, I find, is that if I wake up and I sort of look at newspapers first before I write, I don't know. It just it deflates my spirit. So what I've been doing in the past sort of few weeks that I've been in writing hibernation is that I'm not looking at the news. It's still difficult. Sometimes you sort of find yourself looking. But just the idea that the world, it just doesn't, there's just very little to be hopeful about, but I'm still hopeful. So in addition to being superstitious, I am addicted to hope. I think that as human beings, we have no right to despair. Like we can't, because if we do, then the all's lost. But it's even just thinking about this country and just Nigeria breaks my heart. The U.S. is just, it seems to be sort of hurtling to another disaster, which will remain unnamed. And so there's just, sometimes I just think, what the hell is going on with all these people? Like, why can't people be sensible, And then, of course, it's easy to think, well, if I were in that position, I would do it better. But who knows? Actually, I think I would do it better. I think I would.
If you would like to chat to Chimamanda, there is a microphone there in the middle of the room. Do not be shy because we have 15 minutes left. If you stand there, I will see you, and then you will be able to talk to Chimamanda right in the center of the room. And we continue. Every summertime, you spend time with young people.
Yes.
And you teach.
Yes.
What do you get out of it? I can see what they get out of it. What do you get out of it?
Oh, I do. I actually love teaching because I learn when I teach. It's actually, I found that when I started doing this workshop, which is, and they're not, they're actually young at heart. I'm young. The idea is if you're sort of new to writing, it doesn't matter how old you are. And my vision for it was to be Pan-African. But of course, Nigerians dominate because, we're Nigeria. Hello. If there are any Ghanaians here that want to open their mouths, we will talk about this after this chat. You see, Senegal, they're even talking.
So we are teetering around the great conflict about jollof rice.
There is no conflict. Nigerian jollof is superior. Yeah. The Senegalese claim that they invented it. We don't really care who invented it. We care about who's perfected it.
And that was the technical session about jollof rice. Hello, sir, your question.
Good morning, and thank you very much. Michael Rodriguez from Action Against Hunger. Very much an admirer and a raiser of 4 feminists in my family, only one of which is a woman. Thank you very much for your books and your works. You sit on the top shelf with Tony. Thank you.
Thank you. That's so kind. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. And also really love the idea of just one feminist among 4, one female feminist among 4. We need the boys and men. We really do, especially because men, for some reason, seem to prefer listening to men. So we need the good men to do the work.
Hi, Chimamanda.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I'm so happy to meet you. I've read all of your books. My favorite is Purple Hibiscus. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. And the second one is Americana, but that's, yeah. So, completely relate. And on the comment of jollof, you may have won the jollof, but I think the Africa Cup escaped you.
Okay, and now real conflict breaks out at the Fragility Forum.
Well, we are convinced, right, that Didier Drogba, we don't know what he did, whether he gave them money, we don't know. But, you know, we just think that we deserve that cup. But
Just came
I'm from Zambia.
the good work of the Fragility Forum. And
All
we
right,
should
all right.
take our petty grievances outside.
Outside.
oh, they're not petty at all.
We'll save it for the next forum. Thank you so much. My question is, what advice would you give to your younger self? You've been successful, you've written.
When I think I spent a lot of time, my younger self, caring about just nonsense. You know, what did people say about me? What did they think? And now, you know, I'm 46, and I'm just like, why did I waste time? I could have read more books in that period. I could have learned how to dance when I was wasting my time with nonsense. So yeah.
All right, brother.
Yep.
So this video is about Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And I think we need to discuss who is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Do you know anything about this Nigerian lady?
Yeah, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, she's one of the most renowned African writers, and she has raised a Nigerian flag when it comes to African literature and generally everything that happens in Africa. So I came to learn a lot of things about Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie because she was featured in one of our books that we learned in our campus courses.
Okay.
So there is one thing interesting about Chimamanda Ngozi that he said. He said that there is always one side. She said that there is always a problem with one side of the story. When a person gives you a one side of the story and there is not the other side, there is a problem. And this is what the Westerners usually do. Remember, Africans were told that the USA is heaven.
Is heaven, yeah.
That's
even till now they believe that.
Yeah, that's the place of milk and honey. So Chimamanda Ngozi says when she was a child, watching television, watching the streets of Carolina, you know, watching those places, LA, New York, and
on TV, that is.
On TV, yeah. She saw beautiful things. She saw those skyscrapers and everything, the lifestyle of the whites. But little did she know, she had to set foot in the USA and see for herself. Brother, what she saw isn't the same as what was being portrayed.
Tell me, bro.
Remember the US, there was also people who were begging on the streets. It's not only in Africa. We have street families in the US. We have people living in, how do they call them?
In the streets, homeless people. Wait. The media would not show these people who are poor. It would only show the rich side, right?
Yeah.
Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, she's saying there's two sides to the story, but the Western media is only showing one side, hiding the other side.
Yeah. And the same thing they also did with Africa. Remember, they showed Africa as people, we have children that they are
pot-bellied. You know those pictures, huh?
Yeah, malnourished children and all those things. Like, we don't have something to show the world. But we have those things to show the world, and she was amazed when she went to the States, and people asking her, sorry, do you have a house? Do you people have tarmac road? Do you people speak English? Why is your English so good? You know, they were so amazed that her English was so good. I'm wondering, which country are you coming from? Do Africans, you people speak English? You know, do you live in houses? And I'm like, damn, do they live on the trees or something? So this is what the Western media also have told white people in the States. Remember, these questions that people are asking Chimamanda Ngozi totally tells you that this is what they have always been fed. You know,
it's as if the people in the US or other parts of the world outside Africa, they look at Africa in a very narrow lens, in a stereotypical lens. When you say that they saw her and they could ask her, do you have houses in Africa? Do you have roads? This is also another side of the story. But the white man is so strategic. Not the white man, but whoever does this. Yeah, you know, it's coming from the West. The Western people are very strategic. They show their side, the good side of their side, and they show the bad side of Africa. And Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie is warning about the dangers of one-sided story. Yeah, I think I've remembered that book as well. Yeah. And so in this video, she was discussing why it is dangerous to rely on one side of the story. You know, many people are told Africa is bad, Africa is poor. Even they would ask themselves, do we have YouTube in Africa? Even if you come to look at YouTube, CPM and RPM, the CPM and RPM of African countries is very low because they have that mindset Africans are poor. Not all Africans are poor. Not all Africans are rich. Not all Americans are poor. Not all Americans are rich. However, if you want to know the true side of something, you should try and do your research. Research involves taking yourself to the place. Take yourself to that place you are told, this place is harmful, this place is this and that. Take yourself, go and find out is it really as I am told, or are they cooking a propaganda to fit their narrative? Maybe their narrative is to feed a certain element that they have in mind. And Africans need to reawaken and get smart. And this is the message that Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie is telling us. Bro, do you think Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie is a voice for the Africans?
Yeah, she is a voice for the Africa. However, though she relocated in the States, but she is a voice of Africa. Remember, everything that she said are the things which affect an African child. And there is also something that she tried to talk about, trying to compare an African child and a child who was grown in America.
Yeah.
We have our challenges, we as Africans, you know. And so you can't tell a person not to come to Africa because of the challenges that Africans have. Remember, it is the one side of the story that it is being told to our brothers and sisters, the diasporans who are to come in Africa, not to tell, not go to Africa because if you go, this and this will happen to you.
Yes.
This and that will happen to you.
Yes.
Africans scam people, Africans kill people, you know. And that's one side of the story. What's the other beautiful part of the story? The beautiful part of the story, you will come, you will reconnect with your motherland, you will reconnect with people, you will make new friends, you can find your wife, you can find your new family there. That's the other side of the story. Of course, we have one thing as good sides and bad side, you know. So telling a person the bad side and leaving the good side, it's not a good thing.
Also telling the good side and leaving the bad side is not a good thing. It's a forward reverse. The equation is forward and reverse. We need to place emphasis on both sides, you know. But if you want to come to Africa, come on, just try and move yourself to the continent. It's a beautiful thing. You should try once in a lifetime. Try and move to the continent. I know you might be having some culture shock, but try and move to the continent, get to see where your ancestors came from, get to step on that land, get to experience what Africans are experiencing. And for the bad narratives Africans are being given outside there is not worth it, and it should not affect you, you know. Africa is the richest continent in the world in terms of natural resources. The Congo is the richest country in the whole world in terms of natural resources. We have it all, but we are exploited. We are exploited and then we are given a bad name. You know, there's this proverb which says, if you want to kill a dog, give it a bad name. Because they want to destroy Africans, they give Africa a bad name so that we might see Africa as a place of fights. As the media is showing the fights, they're busy looting Africans. You see how strategic it is. They divert their attention and loot their properties. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, we have Chinua Achebe, the late Chinua Achebe. Did he die?
I think he died. Things fell apart.
He died. Yeah, he died, bro. We have Julius Malema. We have we have the old president of Ghana, the old Nana Akufo-Addo, not the new one we have today, the old one. We have Chihombori, Arikana Chihombori Kwao. We have Naledi Pandor. We have Mia Motley of Barbados. We have Thabo Mbeki, you know. We have all these voices coming up together and trying to fight for the African.
We also have Lumumba.
Yeah, Patrick Lumumba. You know, I was forgetting about Patrick Lumumba. He's really done a lot for the Africans, and the voices. They are the voice of the voiceless. It took Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie to go up to USA to discover these things. You don't have to go all the way to the USA to know that it's just the same way as Africa. You need to learn from these voices. And I'm very glad that Chiombori Kwao is able to tell people this, you know, so that many people who are thinking it is the greener side are realizing, no, I don't have to go there. I can just stay back home here, do something worthwhile as I wait for something else. You can just go for a visit, but not going to escape something or what.
Yeah.
It's worse, it's worse. So we want to end this video. This is my boy, Eugene, Tokyo Stories. He does really great work. He's a Kenyan. And so kindly check his channel, check YouTube, check Eugene from Kenya YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to his channel. And also, yeah, be sure to subscribe, guys. You don't want to miss this. Also, check my channel. Subscribe. Of course, you're watching from my channel. Subscribe. Give a super thanks. Join my Patreon. Become a member of my channel. I know there's too many, but choose one which works for you. See you in the next one. Give the video a thumbs up and share. Share with your family and friends to spread the love and the awareness.